To put out blue bags, it's best to put them out full so you're not putting out 3 or 4 quarter bags every week. Thanks for the kind introduction, Brian. Hopefully you guys enjoy this presentation and I could share some, how did you coin it? Share some talent? There you go. No pressure, right? So thanks for coming out tonight. I hope this topic's interesting to everyone that came out. I know it was very interesting for me to be a part of this project and have it go from start to finish. So for those of you who don't know what a waste audit is it's basically it's analyzing the performance of the residential collection program. So waste audits are completed in various intervals. Most municipalities in the area complete them, I'd say every couple of years, just to monitor the performance of their program and also look for areas of improvement. Go to the next one, Michael. So here's kind of a rundown of how the waste audit was carried out from a pretty high level. We contracted S-Cubed Environmental, a very experienced group at doing these waste audits. There were 70 households collected, 10 homes in 7 areas, and the houses were selected based on what was the best representation of Devon. So these houses were selected based on the age of the home, the style of the home, if it was front or back alley collection, to kind of line up with the overall demographic of Devon. It was kind of interesting too to learn how these are carried out, because the standard rule of thumb is to do 10 homes in a row on the same side of the street. And I asked them why, and they said that it just produces the most consistent data. So that's the method that we went with. Prior to the collection of these carts, the contractor drove around and they analyzed a few different items, like how full the carts were, what carts people were putting out, if they put out any blue bags, how many blue bags they put out. So kind of getting some data down to see what parts of the program people are participating in. And we had our contractor come out with a small truck called a Mini Max truck. So they came out and collected from these homes, these selected homes, while their main trucks did their main collections for the day. So overall, it was a pretty well streamlined process. And we also lined it up where it lined up on the Tuesday collection day and the Wednesday collection day, and it worked out perfect because on Tuesdays the recycling depot is not open, and on Wednesday it doesn't open until later in the afternoon. So we were actually able to save some money and add some convenience by using the recycling depot as a sorting station. And I felt kind of bad for the sorters because it didn't rain for 2 or 3 weeks before this. And on the Wednesday of the audit, it just poured all day on them. But they did a fantastic job, and I think they left the depot probably cleaner than it was when they showed up. So next slide. So here's some results of the pre-collection data that they collected. As you can see, 81% of households that were surveyed placed their garbage out, 46% put recycling out, and 43% put their organics out. And on the side here, it shows the fullness of each bin. So the garbage carts the majority of them were full at about 50.5%. The blue bags, only about 41% were full. And you know, if you're going to put out blue bags, it's best to put them out full so you're not putting out 3 or 4 quarter bags every week. And then the organics bins, about 40% were full. So you could go to the next slide. Now this is kind of a graphic that we did a little bit of advertising with after the audit. And it basically shows a side section of the average black garbage cart during the audit. So as you could see, in a full cart, only about 54% of it was actually garbage, and 34% was organics. that could have been placed in the green bin. 9% was recyclables. 3% was depot items, so this included household hazardous waste, which obviously we don't want in our garbage carts, such as batteries, aerosol cans. So I mean, you get this kind of ties into the piece too. Yes, we can divert some of these items, but I mean, we can also do our part to reduce the amount of waste that we have in our carts. So you could go to the next one. Thanks. So here's the recycling breakdown, and what I wanted the contractor to do in their audit was to include some of the items that are no longer being accepted in China and some of the other countries that take recyclables. So as you know, last year there were some changes in what's being accepted. Certain plastics aren't being taken anymore in those countries because there's just no market for them. They end up causing environmental problems in some of those countries. So unfortunately, fortunately, we will have to deal with those. So that was included in what they call the contamination in here. And this was before any real communications were put out. We wanted to get a feel for what amount of our recycling was those items that are no longer being taken. So some of the other contamination included textiles, clothing, donatable products, dog food bags, and plastic wrap magazines. So there are actually some magazines that weren't read yet. And magazines are obviously recyclable, but when they're wrapped in plastic, that causes some problems. Next. So obviously, since it was done at the end of May, this was completed in May of 2018, a very high percentage of the green organics bin was yard and garden organics. Included in there is some food waste, but the majority of it was yard and garden. And a very small percentage of contamination in our green carts, which is really good. People are understanding what to put in the green carts. Some other communities in the region have contamination rates that are 15, 20% or higher in the green carts, believe it or not. So to have a contamination rate of 2.3%, it's not perfect, but it's still a pretty good number compared to the rest of the region. The next one, Michael. So this is kind of an interesting analysis. This is showing the comparison between 2012 was the last year they did an audit, so it had been 6 years. And this is showing percentages of what is in your garbage can. So in 2012, there was a little bit more recycling depot items, so those would be like your batteries, your electronics, your hazardous waste. And then in 2018, it shows slightly more blue bag items in your garbage cart. Yard waste was much higher in 2012, as was food waste in the garbage cart, but that was before we had the green cart program in Devon. So you could kind of see the impact that the green cart program has had just based on this image. In 2018, there was a higher percentage of garbage in the garbage cart, so obviously we want garbage in the garbage cart. Next slide, please. So here's some really interesting spreadsheets, and again, it highlights the work that's being done by residents on a weekly basis, and as well as bringing in a green cart and other options for them. So MSW, that's waste or garbage going to landfill, and this is from curbside. So this is just residential collection. In 2011, as you can see, there's roughly, I'd say 2,150 tons from curbside garbage going to landfill, versus in 2018, about 1,200 tons of garbage going to landfill from curbside. So as you could see, quite a bit of yard waste, food waste, recycling and other items are being taken out of the garbage, which is good to see. A curbside diversion rate, again, diversion is relating to what's not going to landfill as garbage. So curbside, it would be your organics and your recycling. How much of your actual overall waste is being diverted in those streams? So again, in 2011, the diversion rate, curbside residential is about 15%. In 2018, it's right around 40. And so between 2016 and 2018, it's kind of plateaued, the diversion rate. To improve that, there's a few different recommendations that have been given. Other communities have changed their collection frequency and done a few initiatives to reduce that. One thing deceiving about the diversion rate, though, it's a very commonly used measurement, but a good example of why it can be flawed is if I mulch my lawn every week versus throwing it in the green cart, and Brian throws his garbage in the green cart each week. And let's say I use a reusable drinking water bottle, but Brian drinks 10 bottled waters every day and throws them in the recycling bin. Brian's diversion rate's gonna be higher than mine because his recycling is higher than mine, or his organics are higher than mine, even though he's producing actually more waste than I am. So, could you go to the next slide, Michael? So some observations that our contractor who did this waste audit made were a huge behavior change is needed as far as green carts go, and that's putting our food waste in the green cart. So 94% of kitchen waste is being thrown into the garbage stream. 5% of that food waste is still in the packaging, and I saw some pictures and actually went down to look at the audit, and to be quite honest, you could have taken this food home with you and probably made a lunch out of it. So that's just something that shouldn't be happening. If you could go to number 10. A freezer's good. Yeah, we freeze a lot of things. My grandma taught me that. Another recommendation that was made by the contractor, again, this is something that would have to go through council for approval and all those necessary steps. So there's no saying it's going to happen. But a recommendation was to switch the garbage collection to every second week. I'd say the majority of the region that we meet with does that. It's cheaper, removes incentives to use garbage for recyclables and organics. So it encourages people to increase that diversion. Like we saw on the graphic, a full garbage can was 40% organics and 10% recycling. So having those other avenues as well as the recycling depot, this is one incentive they recommended to encourage that diversion. And focus our communication efforts on behavior changes. Everyone in this room makes a big difference. That's the interesting thing about solid waste is it's not a big investment. It's not putting a new energy system in your home or anything like that. It's your behaviors and reducing how much garbage you make and diverting what you can. So if you go to the next one. So I just wanted to kind of highlight the town's website. We actually have a lot of updated information there. There's been quite a few updates over the past year with what goes where and those types of things. So on devon.ca/waste, or go to residents, garbage, organics, and recycling. And if you go there and you hover over it, a little menu will drop off to the side. And these are some of the things under it. So blue bag recycling, garbage, organics, recycling depot info, like when they're open, what they take, what their fees are, information on large item pickup, and then additional initiatives that the town is taking on. So another thing that we have at the town is an app, so you can download it on your mobile phone. We get some concerns coming in through this, so Some people will use it to report a missed pickup. Some people will use it to replace to let us know about a damaged bin. It's also just good if you forget when your organics week is, because we switch to every second week and you just want a reminder of your collection schedule. It's all quick and easy to access on our app. Go to the next one. Thank you for your time this evening. I have a picture of the report here. It's actually on the town's website as well for you to look at. So there's the full waste audit right on the Town of Devon's website. And that's under, there's a heading at the top that says government, and then under government there's plans and reports. And you could find the waste audit there and go through it. It's actually pretty interesting. That's everything. Thank you.
Are there any questions, Brandy? Yes.
Do you know when we might be able to recycle glass again?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's a very frequently asked question because people want to recycle glass. So, like, what gets accepted? Like we have limited control over it. Obviously, the people that get the products, they have to find markets for it and that type of thing. So, over the past year, I actually followed a few leads and found a group that's going to be building a facility in Edmonton. And so they'll be taking used glass, different varieties of used glass, and using it for sandblasting, using it to make countertops and other items. So we were going to get a glass bin for the recycling depot a few months ago, but the last time I talked to them, they're just a little bit delayed in building this facility. But once it's up and running and they let us know what some of the costs would be and if there'd be any costs, then we'll get a glass bin at the depot again, and we'll let everyone know about that too. So.
Yes, Michael.
I just was wondering if, since the bottle depot takes wine bottles.
Takes wine bottles?
Yeah. As glass, right? Certain beverage bottles that are glass, they take them. I was wondering if they might have a market, even if we don't get any money for it. The whole concept is to put it somewhere where it doesn't go into the landfill, right?
Yeah, I think the depots take only deposit items, though.
Andy, could you just repeat the questions through the mics?
Oh, okay. He was wondering if the bottle depot because they take wine bottles and other glasses, if they take those items, or maybe consider it, right? Yeah.
You had a question?
Always wondering how well we do things, and we do lots of things very well in Devon, and I'm just wondering what we do in terms of the recycling and all the things you're talking about compared to other areas like the city of Edmonton, for instance.
Oh, okay. So the Town of Devon, we meet on sorry, what's your name? Ted was asking how Devon compares regionally to other municipalities when it comes to waste management. And I want to say we're average. I want to say with the municipalities that we meet with in the region. On that board, I meet with the city of Leduc. The city of Edmonton's there, but as Michael will show, they're a very unique waste management situation because they have probably the Cadillac of facilities in Edmonton. But other comparable municipalities would be Spruce Grove, Beaumont, Strathcona County. We all have similar programs, Stony Plain and Leduc. Our diversion rate sits around 40%. Some of theirs do as well. The places that have every second week garbage collection, their diversion rates tend to be closer to 60%. And even though it seems like a drastic step on that regional committee, aside from Kalmar and maybe some of the smaller places, us in Spruce Grove, and maybe Edmonton again, but Edmonton's unique. Us in Spruce Grove, we're the only municipalities in the region that are still collecting garbage weekly. So where that 40% diversion rate plateaued, an area where it could improve would be if we did biweekly collection. As far as services go, we're offering very, very similar services with the green cart, the blue bag, and the garbage cart. There's a couple communities that I think maybe just started offering some recycling programs even. Fort Saskatchewan actually still had, you could put out unlimited carts and bags every week up until last year. So I'd say we're right up there with the other places. Yeah. Yeah.
Could you consider doing it like a month, in, say in the spring, having it every week because of waste, with people getting rid of their leaves and that kind of stuff, and then the rest of the year just having it every 2 weeks?
It's something to consider. Again, if we did something like that, it'd have to get approved by council. And then we have it built in our contract that if we change the collection frequency, we'll give the collector a 90 days notice or something like that. So it can be done. Most places typically just go with every second week garbage collection all year. Encourage people to use the green cart and recycle as well. And also not to fill that big thing every week, right? So, Don.
Yeah. Thanks for coming and telling us all about this, Andy. I have 3 questions and 2 points of information. First question, was this Devon's first audit on waste?
The last one that was done in 2012,
Okay.
and I'm not sure if there was one done before that. I don't think there was.
Okay. Was there any thought given to trying to find out how many people are doing on-property composting to create compost gardener's gold?
No, this wasn't part of that, but
Okay.
composting's awesome.
Okay. Maybe put that in the back of your mind to figure out how to put that in next audit, because that would be, I think, pretty interesting, because then there'd be trying to find out ways to stimulate other people to get into composting if they're not doing it. Yeah. Just two points of information and then one final question. It's really interesting to hear now about the fact that developed nations who have been into recycling for a long time all of a sudden ran into the walls of developing nations that were taking these materials and making use of them. My understanding of it is that all of a sudden the quality of the material that was being shipped to China, Philippines, Indonesia, where they were using the plastics to set up recycled to new plastics industries, all of a sudden the amount of contaminated material that was arriving at their doorsteps kept getting higher and higher. And that was a failure of our system because we didn't properly monitor the companies that were sending this waste offshore and making sure that they were keeping it clean so that we could have that. But now we have to deal with it ourselves, so that's even better. Also, there is one company in Edmonton at the Waste Management Center. I think they're set up. They're called Enrichem, I believe. And I think through pyrolysis, gasification, they're taking plastics and changing it into energy. They can either get methane out of it or they can turn it into alcohols.
You're going to ruin my presentation.
So you're going to talk about that? Okay, well then skip that until you talk about that. And my last question, Andy, is what's next steps now that you have this data? What's the plan, or have you started to wrap your head around a plan on how to get this diversion rate up, how to encourage people to do more proper recycling, better use of the green card, et cetera, less contamination going into the blue bags, less stuff being thrown into garbage that can be recycled, et cetera.
Yeah.
Because it would seem to me that with the environmental awareness that people are starting to get in 2019, that with a little bit of work, education work and a little bit of monitoring, that we could get these rates up significantly. That's just my thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a big first step is more education and communication. Yeah, thanks for those facts, Don.
Okay.
More education, more communication on these items specifically to organic diversion, food waste, encouraging people to use the green carts. Just lately, I did a presentation last week. We brought in Melissa from Waste Free Edmonton, and she did a presentation on single-use plastics, the concerns with a lot of these items globally. So being there last week, providing an opportunity for people to come out, reaching them through the means that we do have, social media, newspapers, stuff like that, encouraging more people to put food waste in the compost bin, to reduce waste as well. So our council's been looking at ways to reduce some of the waste in the community, looking at plastic retail bags, trying to work with the businesses to see if they'd be willing to not hand out the plastic retail bags, because I think there's something like, there's in the billions in Canada per year that end up going to landfill, and they take 1,000 years to break down. But we assume 1,000 years, but we haven't been around 1,000 years with plastic, so we really don't know how long it's going to take for those to break down. The Town of Devon right now, we're recruiting for a single-use waste reduction task force. So we're going to be meeting. There's going to be a team of 7, so we're open to applications right now. I believe Heather shared that with the group, and the link on the town website to the application. So there will be a task force made up of 7 people, and we're going to share ideas and look at ways to reduce waste in the community, and then bring recommendations forward to council.
One more question?
Yeah.
What actually happens? They were very faithful at putting things into blue bags and whatnot, and it goes off, gets sorted. What happens next?
So
Where does it go?
our contractor in Devon, they're GFL. So they're a really big global, well, North American at least for now, but waste company. And in the Edmonton region, there's 2 material recovery facilities, or MRF is kind of the abbreviation for them. One is the city of Edmonton's, and the other one is GFL actually owns a material recovery facility on West Edmonton. So once your blue baggy recyclables get collected by the truck, they go to the West Edmonton GFL facility to get sorted. At that facility, they have people that manually sort the items. They have magnets for some of the metals to sort it. They have big fans that blow different weights of paper and cardboard into their own areas. And there's also, they're called optic eyes, and they're laser sorters. So they could actually sort very specific materials like plastics out. So once that's completed, the materials are made into bales and then shipped to their markets. And the majority of their recycling, at least as far as last time I checked, ends up going to China.
Does GFL offer, are they set up with a viewing gallery for tours to watch how that whole process works?
I've never been down there. I think they're probably pretty secure with it. I suggested 2 tours per year, and they suggested 1, so I think it's pretty controlled.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do tours every week if you want to come see our facility. It's got a great gallery.
Yeah, I ran that education program for 3 years for you guys.
Okay.
So I walked around that. I can still have my eyes closed and do the whole shit.
Yeah,
Terrific.
yeah. The Edmonton tour is awesome, but Michael will talk more about that. So.
So Andy, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, Mark.